COVID-19 has had a devastating effect on the economy, causing job losses, businesses to close permanently, and others struggling to survive. Massachusetts has seen some positive news with more and more businesses back open in Phase 3, but the state's unemployment rate is currently the worst in the country, and many wonder how long will it take to recover from the shutdown. John Rogers, professor of economics from American International College, sat down with Carolee McGrath to discuss the economy, the latest stimulus package, and more.
I think the big news, the big picture, if you like, is this sort of disconnect between the real economy and the stock market. So I think the stock market's kind of looking to the future. The real economy, what all of us deal with day in and day out, is definitely struggling, as you referenced. And I think it's all about the virus. We thought probably by maybe Memorial Day or certainly by the 4th of July that the curve would have been flattened, the opening up could proceed apace, and we'd kind of get back to normal, that famous V-shaped recession that we talked about when we spoke the last time a couple of months ago. That's not happening. I think people are now seeing more of I think the latest metaphor is the swoosh, the Nike swoosh, that we're going to kind of hit bottom, or we're in the process of hitting bottom, but the recovery is going to take a while. And I think you're seeing that in things like the unemployment numbers, which maybe are a little bit better because the number of claims isn't going up. But on the other hand, we still have a lot of people unemployed. It's devastating for a lot of the sectors that affect the average person: services, restaurants, hotels. We have a casino here in Springfield that's obviously been dramatically affected. The colleges and universities are trying to figure out whether they can even bring students back to campus. That's going to have a big impact on many of our local economies, the whole debate about school openings. So there are a lot of things that are just really not coming together right now, and it's going to take some time, and it's going to depend on the progress in things like vaccines and testing, which still there's some optimistic signs, but it hasn't happened yet.
Right, and a lot of people are saying once that happens, obviously things will turn, especially when you're talking about schools and jobs, but that could be months away. So people right now, as we talked about, are struggling. In the national picture, more than 1.4 million Americans filed for unemployment last week, according to the Labor Department. 52 million first time since the beginning of March. Where are people at as far as, what are their prospects as we move forward into the next month?
Well, their prospects all hinge on this ability to reopen the economy. I think we've always said the economy itself potentially is quite strong, could be quite strong if we could get through the health crisis, because interest rates are low, oil prices are low. The dollar is starting to not really weaken, but it's not strengthening anymore. So that helps the export markets for American manufacturers, which already are starting to respond pretty favorably. But until you have a solution to the health crisis, those service jobs just are going to be struggling, and that's where the majority of people work. The good news is consumer confidence is it's not where you'd like it to be, but it hasn't collapsed. The savings rate is actually fairly high, which is good news. So people do have money stashed away. They've seen the writing on the wall, and they know they have to kind of have a cushion. And there is good news, I think, this morning that looks like the Congress and the President and the House and the Senate will maybe come together on some kind of a new package to extend, maybe not exactly the unemployment supplement, the $600 a week that we have now, but do some kind of extended unemployment benefits, talk about a payroll tax cut. So the government, give it its due, is really committed to trying to help people, and I think that's that's something that's going to support people through this difficult period, but it is difficult.
And going back to that bill that you just referenced in this relief package that's being hashed out, they're talking about another round of direct checks as well. Would that be a shot to the economy that would be helpful, obviously, for people who are struggling?
Oh, absolutely, and to businesses, because to the extent that you can keep businesses alive, then there are jobs to go back to. I think the real danger is that a lot of these small businesses are literally going out of business or on the ropes. And so even once the crisis passes, if those businesses aren't there, it's just going to prolong the underperformance of the real economy. It'll all come back eventually, but it's going to take longer than we thought.
When you talk about the economy versus sort of health policy, public health policy, obviously there's a lot of frustration because you mentioned, listen, if these businesses could open and be business as usual, things would be okay. Obviously, that is not the case. How do you see that sort of working itself out in the months to come as we see other states kind of having an uptick in coronavirus cases?
I think that's going to just prolong this swoosh type recovery. It's not going to come back the way we had hoped. And to the extent that these big states like California, Texas, Florida are struggling with very high rates of infection, they're going to have to go the other way. They're closing down and maybe in some cases going to have to go back to full lockdowns. So that's just going to prolong the agony because we are a single country. I mean, you can isolate yourself somewhat. And, Connecticut, I think, is talking about a travel ban on something like 31 states. People coming into Connecticut would have to self-quarantine and be tested before they'd be allowed to come in. But that doesn't really work in a single country. So we're going to all have to struggle with this as long as the virus is out there.
You talked also about schools, in particular colleges as well. Not having those kids on campus paying room and board is a big hit, to the colleges, to the surrounding communities that they're in. How do you think this will play out as both, schools, K through 12 are trying to work out the details of what September is going to look like, as well as on the college level?
I think the issue with the K through 12 is really an education issue. It's a problem for a lot of people, particularly at the younger grade levels. This online learning hasn't really been developed very well for younger students. At the high school level, these younger people are obviously pretty conversant with devices and they have pretty good connectivity, but I think there's just a tremendous issue with all the social aspects, the sports, the activities, the things that really make the high school experience so important. Inevitably, you lose a lot of that. At the college level, I think it's a problem for the colleges themselves, for the finances, because they're just losing a lot of revenue. And they're worried about the enrollments because students maybe will say, hey, I want to stay closer to home, or I'll take a gap year and try it again in 2021. So there's a lot of anxiety there. And then I think it has a huge impact on obviously the surrounding communities, but also the future of education is just being rethought. I mean, is this whole college experience worth the money that people are paying if you can actually deliver instruction online or by distance or virtually? Maybe a lot of people will opt for that. And so the Harvards and the MITs of the world will survive, but maybe a lot of other colleges and universities won't.
So, John, how do you pay for all of these stimulus packages that have been passed when you consider the debt that the U.S. has?
Right now, we're in the midst of a very aggressive monetary and fiscal policy, and not only in the U.S., but in Europe just signed a large coronavirus relief package. The Asian countries have done similar things. So around the world, the central banks are essentially printing money to keep the interest rates down and to provide backup for the banks, and the governments are spending money on all these things we discussed, unemployment insurance and relief of various sorts. So this is ballooning the national debt. And I think in the case of the United States, we're in a rather privileged position because we can borrow at such low rates and everybody has faith in the dollar. But in the long run, I think it's got to be concerning. We've added $3 trillion to the debt this year. We've got a $1 trillion plus deficit projected, looks like, for the rest of the decade. So I think that in the long run, as the economy will come back in the next year and things will start to get back to normal, but we'll be left with this huge overhang of not only debt, but just ongoing deficits. And if you want to start to plug those deficits, you have to start cutting things in the federal budget. And the federal budget is 70% entitlements and interest on the debt. So where are you going to find the money? You're going to find it in programs like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, veterans benefits, et cetera. This could get pretty nasty in a few years.